Welcome to the Creative Plane Podcast Network. Join us as we review our favorite RPGs, collectible card games, MMOs, video games, PC games, and bring up interesting topics and things that we'd like to share with everyone. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Kelly, aka Trixie from Ragnarok and Roll, a Sign to Ragnarok story, and Tilda Wimblewick from D&D Journey of the 5th Edition. First off, I would just like to say thank you to everyone for listening to our varied adventures, as well as for rating us on iTunes and rpgpodcast.com. If you haven't rated us yet, we would greatly appreciate it if you could. And if you're looking for more ways to support our efforts, we are now on Patreon, a great site where you can help us continue making more podcasts, as well as some special surprises for our patrons. If you can, please look us up at www.patreon.com/cppn. Every little bit helps. And again, thank you for listening.
Hey guys, Creative Plane Podcast Network here. Welcome back to RPG A Day 2015. Like I said, if you know any GMs out there or any players that enjoy posting stuff, give them the hashtag RPG A Day 2015 challenge. So here we are on August the 16th. The question for the day is the longest game session played. For this one's a no-brainer. It's pretty much one of those game sessions we joke about back in the day of just how crazy and stupid we were as gamers. It was a session of Heroes Unlimited from Palladium Books. It's one of the, personally I enjoy them the most, hero campaign games because you can pretty much play anything from street level heroes like Daredevil and Iron Fist, all the way up to X-Men through, you could even have something as crazy as Galacticus coming after a bunch of mega heroes. So this game in particular, I pretty much had all of my friends make up characters that pretty much 80% of the group were villains pretending to be heroes. Now at the time, Thunderbolts hadn't come out yet, so it was kind of a fun play on the idea of that. Fabricators Inc., which is basically one of the big industrial powers for villains out there, pretty much the AIM of, pretty much in Marvel, AIM would be the equivalent, the group, the Advanced Idea Mechanics that makes inventions and things for the different villains out there. The group would give them plastic surgery, dressed up, and actually sold off as the idea to become city-sanctioned superheroes, sort of like the Avengers. It was a fantastic campaign. It went so bad that at one point, half the group that were mutants were actually tied to this character that I created, sort of like if you ever saw Mutant X, the TV show, he was really similar to the character Adam, a mega mutant who had all these powers, and pretty much fell in love with one of the players. That same player ended up killing his adopted sister by accidentally smacking her mouth when she started to call for help, and unfortunately she forgot she had superhuman strength, so the face just exploded because in real life she pretty much slapped her hand over my mouth, and I'm like, is that what your character does? And she's like, yes. Okay, roll for damage. And she tried to pull punch, but she failed her pull punch roll and did full damage, making the Hawk Woman's face basically explode. Thankfully, she managed to hide it from her boyfriend for a while until he did a mind bond on her, and then they knew exactly what happened. But true love in that situation came through. The session was 3 days long. We ended up literally continuing to game, had this great session. One of my players, she ended up falling in love with a local police officer, even having a child through the game session. And it went so bad as he became phobic of dark because a bad guy copied her power and used it on him in a horrible, horrible way. So it was kind of fun when her character ended up pregnant and had a daughter that had just her same exact superpower. Because, as soon as Daddy saw her eyes turn black and saw the darkness power when she was upset, Daddy was a little extremely paranoid at that point, but nobody ever really found out that they were actually villains, which I thought was cool because they actually were playing such a great job keeping it under check that, hey, we're the heroes of the city. But in fact, they were accomplishing a few missions for Fabricators Inc., taking care of the competition, as well as stealing the occasional bit of intel and equipment. Well, the end of the session pretty much happened as a joke all of a sudden because most of my players were sleeping in rotations while I was staying up running the game. Funny thing happened, all of a sudden I'm sitting there on the third day and they're busting into this building, they're doing a full-blown insertion, tactically taking floor by floor of this building, and all of a sudden at some point I must have nodded off, had this whole out-of-body surreal experience because at some point Mind you, they were attacking supervillain terrorists that took over this building. I tell them, and zombies come out of the air conditioner. And literally you could hear a pin drop when I said that. And all of a sudden everybody's like, what? And all of a sudden at that point, because they said that, all of a sudden it snapped me out of being basically waking dream that I was in. And all of a sudden I had to admit, okay guys, I've gone a little too far. I think I need some sleep. 3 days is the cap. I'm going to go crash for an hour or two and then wake me up. So it's one of those lessons that be careful when you power game. At some point, unless you have a GM that you can swap out, your GM will need some TLC and need to be taken care of. But, from my personal opinion, if you stay up constantly, make sure at least every 2 hours you're eating some kind of protein to keep your blood sugar and your protein levels high. Honestly, nowadays, years later, I wouldn't pull that again. I'd say 1 or 2 overnighters and then separate them. Or if you got a GM you can team up with, have that GM swap in so that way you guys can at least take every 10 hours a break. Which, that's actually an idea I was thinking about, is having a power gaming session. See if we could have a longest Palladium game ran or something like that. Because I know one group, there's a 72-hour D&D game that they had, so pretty much thinking we wouldn't be able to beat that longest session ever played type of deal. I hope you guys enjoyed that. All right, thank you guys for listening and have a great one.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Play and Podcast Network. And feel free to enjoy our other shows, such as D&D Journey of the 5th Edition and Scion Ragnarok and Roll, a Scion hero to Ragnarok story. Thank you for listening.